Time now for the Educated Retirement Show with your host, Jay Kaplan. Jay discusses reverse mortgages and can answer your questions at 951-922-3532. Call lines are open at 951-922-3532. And now here's Jay.
And here is Jay, and well, it's almost too much there. There we go, maybe. Welcome to the Educated Retirement Show here on KMET 1490 AM, and where we contemplate retirement and how to best prepare for that retirement and how to best successfully stay retired. So we have a great guest today in Chris Bissonette, who is a really great financial planner, but because of certain things of he's a broker dealer person, and they're not allowed to talk about that on the radio, but he maybe we'll get into some of how he can save you $100,000 if you're paying for children or grandchildren going to college. But we'll also get into some let me wave here to Jackie. We're also going to get into some conspiracy things, which he loves and we get. But first of all, let me wish everyone a great, wonderful, and happy Easter and a great Easter weekend. And hopefully you've got family and friends to spend some of that time with. So let's do it, because you never know about the future. So absolutely meet your retirement needs. Top off your tank so you can make it all the way. Why? Because the future is now. Knowledge is power. And our phone number is 866-955-2233, 866-955-2233. It is that kind of phone number that an old person like me can actually, well, I remember it most of the time. So 866-955-2233, and a website for this show and everything about retirement finance, including the HECM, is theeducatedretirement.com, theeducatedretirement.com, or for a little humor and a faster one, Dr. HECM, D-R-H-E-C-M, so www.drhecm.com, drhecm.com, and the HECM, of course, does not stand for a indigestion problem. It's home equity conversion mortgage, but I don't necessarily like to think of it as a mortgage, because what it does is it frees up your equity. You do or do not have to take money, but it's there, rather than having it, as Ron Siegel would say, having your equity tied up in a coffee can buried in your backyard, and it's costing you money not being able to use that. So once you are on the website, you're going to see a lot of great stories, videos, especially some great videos, which I'm really proud of, because most all of them are from happy clients. I don't think I have any unhappy clients. And some interviews with some really good people. And speaking of other shows here on KMET, because you can also see other people's shows from the website where it says watch live, but it doesn't, it is the way to watch it live, but you can see other shows from other great people here on KMET. I'm not sure how far back that goes, but it goes back quite a ways. And what it is that link actually takes you to the KMET.com website and the little TV icon where you can see all of those shows. So even if you don't have the ability to watch and to see things right now, that's a great way to do it. So we are going to talk about some other shows here on KMET. And Let Grandpa Speak, whose show is here every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And I say this over and over because you know what? I mean it. It's the best way to start your weekend with a good and happy mood. And he was nominated for 5 Emmys and won 3. Also a real master at barbecue especially barbecue beef ribs. And don't forget the West Coast Business Review with Daryl McCants, who's a real master at eating barbecue ribs and everything else. So he's actually a repeat offender here on this show, and his show is on every Wednesday at 4 p.m. They always give a plug for this show. And the other person who gives a plug for this show every week is Yvette Walker. And Sean, tell me what time her show is on, because I'm old and I forget these things.
Yvette is on at 4 p.m. on Tuesdays.
4 p.m. on Tuesdays. And on this Daryl McCants show, I'm a part of his advisory board with Bill Morris of UCI, who's also a repeat offender on this show. And never forget Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show here on KMET, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. And I'm on his show about once a month again, talking about finance for older people, whatever older means. I think if you are watching the show, you have a wonderful meaning of what older person is just by taking a look at me. Anyway, so here's a question I've been asking because I love to be able to think about the answer to this. And when does your home loan become an asset? And that's obvious from what we talk about. My day job is at the Loan Source, and my NMLS number is 384565. And I'm also Department of Real Estate 792630. And on that, you know by now that I do not sell real estate, but I like to stay on top of that kind of thing. And, I will also be able to advise people on the subject. And if you need to talk to somebody in real estate, let me know, and I can put you in touch. And there's never obligation of talking to any of these people. But what is today other than the Friday? I guess this would be Good Friday, correct? Mm-hmm. So let's have a good show on Good Friday. But it's also Jackie Robinson Day. And, first of all, speaking of Easter, I've talked about these cards from Gail Maxwell, and here's one we just got about Easter. Take a look at that. Isn't that cool? And on the inside, there's a bunny and other good stuff. And just a personal note, but, it's really, she does great stuff. And if you need great stuff as far as cards are concerned, let me know, and I can put you in touch with her. But Jackie Robinson Day occurs annually on April 15th, and that's today. So this is the 75th anniversary honoring the day when Jackie Robinson made his major league debut. It was opening day 1947, so I was 1 year old, and Jackie's first season in the major leagues. He became the first African-American Major League Baseball player of the modern era, as far as I know, Major League of any era in this country. On that day, he brought down the color barrier on April 15th in Major League Baseball, and many players, coaches, and managers on both teams, including the Empires, wear Robinson's uniform number 42 in his honor. That would be on this day then, not every day. Mm-hmm. The number 42, of course, we've talked about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and as you all know, 42 is the meaning of life. So it's been retired, by the way, for all Major League Baseball teams in a ceremony in 1997, so no future Major League Baseball player could wear that number. And Robinson won the National League Most Valuable Player Award in 1949, the first black player honor. He was an all-star for 6 consecutive seasons from 1949 to 1954, and induced into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1962. So let's honor that And, looking back now, it just seems ridiculous how we had that color barrier in baseball and anywhere else for that matter. And it's something that this country is still working on. So we need to work on that. But this day also is remember. Oh, let's remember what. And of course, there's some good pictures. Most of us know what he looks like. And of course, there's been a lot of ads on TV. I don't know what you call them ads, but announcements on television that talk. They have different people playing him. And, well, here he is, boy.
Documentary.
Yeah, I guess talking about a documentary and things like that. B for. What team was B? Yes, that's right. And I'm so old, I remember when
Brooklyn Dodgers.
the Dodgers were in Brooklyn. I believe, yeah, that's an old one. And I also remember going with my father to the Coliseum to see Angels play there, where they had that, I guess, that left field. They had that huge barrier or whatever fence thing up about 300 feet. Well, maybe not quite that much. That would tell you that it was a home run. It was a pretty weird setup, but of course it worked. And today is also Remember the Titanic or Titanic Remembrance Day. So on April 15th, 1912, an iceberg sinks the unsinkable Titanic, and we all know what happened that tragic morning. And over the years, there's been several films based on that disaster. Let's take a quick look at the films until the Titanic came out, the one in the 90s. This was the number one film that talked about the Titanic. And as you may recall, when what's his name picked up the final Oscar, who? My God.
That film?
No, the big one.
Oh, Cameron.
Yeah, James Cameron. Okay. Old age. I don't have to prove it, huh? Do you remember what he said when he picked up that Oscar? He said, "This is a night to remember." So be it.
Oh.
So over the years, there has been several films based on the disaster, but did you know it all began with Saved from the Titanic in 1912? It was a silent film that starred an actual Titanic survivor, film actress Dorothy Gibson, and released only 25 days after the sinking of the ship. It is now a lost film, unfortunately, following a studio fire in which the last known prints were destroyed. Only a few production stills remain. And let's take a look at, here is a poster for that film. I think that's pretty interesting, no? Yeah, I'd say so. And here's a bigger one. Saved from the Titanic. Exclusive extra. Anyway, I'm too busy reading it instead of showing it to you. But that is a really cool looking poster, isn't it? It is, actually. And what I got here. Oh, here's a pretty small picture. But we'll give it a try. They are saving her, I believe. And that's a still from the film, not the reality of it. And what I got here. Here's another picture of her. Probably a promotional picture. And another promotional picture. I thought that was pretty interesting. I wish we were able to watch that, but we can't. But I had no idea that people were making money off the Titanic that soon. So Dorothy was on vacation in Europe with her mother when her employers, the Eclair Film Company, called her back to New York City for a production. And on the evening of the sinking, she was playing bridge. I don't remember when everybody would play bridge. I never learned it. Anyway, in the first class salon before retiring to her cabin that she shared with her mother. Do we know what happened to her mother?
Saved.
Saved also.
Yeah.
Mama was also saved. So after the collision with the iceberg, Gibson went to investigate, fetched her mother, and they were able to board a lifeboat. Dorothy had been one of 28 people aboard that first lifeboat to be launched from Titanic about an hour after the collision, and was rescued about 5.5 hours after leaving the ship. She recalled the terrible crying that rang out from people who were thrown into the sea. Yes, pretty horrific situation, and it's pretty nice that we know we have enough lifeboats on today's vessels. So on returning to New York City, she quickly co-wrote a script to a new film based on the event and wound up playing a fictionalized version of herself. The plot involves her recounting the story of the disaster, in which they use stock footage of icebergs, and those were interspersed throughout the film. And she wore the same clothes as she did on the disaster. The film was released right away so as to catch attention, since the news of the sinking was still fresh. It was an enormous success. The film was only 10 minutes long, but this was typical of the time, as a single production at the theater consisted of 6 to 8 short films. I remember always 2 films and a cartoon and some coming attractions. Anyway, those days are gone too, and it cost 25 cents. A few films based on the Titanic include Titanic, 1953, A Night to Remember, which we already showed you, 1958, The Unsinkable Molly Brown in 1964, and John Cameron's Titanic, 1997, and of course the inspired disaster film Poseidon Adventure. And I got it somewhere, but this is a remake, and I believe this was, if I can read it, I know who this was that made it. Wasn't this Peterson? Forgot his Wolfgang Peterson, who did some great films. And you know what? I don't really remember this that much. Do you? You know what? May have to watch it. Yeah. I mean, Wolfgang Peterson is a big-time director and does some good work. But before we get on to our guest and our short break, I believe NASA Nellie is circling the Earth and very close to where we are right now. So let's give a listen to hear if we can hear the retro rockets of NASA Nellie. There we go.
Okay. The year 1897. Bram Stoker's Gothic horror novel Dracula was first published. Cotton candy was invented, and so was the ice cream scoop and charcoal briquettes. But picture this, the small town of Aurora, Texas, which in the 1800s had a population of over 4,000, where now it's only about 1,600. On a farm near the little town of Aurora, an event from out of this world was about to occur. As a reminder, this is several years before the invention of the first powered airplane. As reported, a UFO in the form of a mystery airship, cigar-shaped craft, is said to have hit a windmill on the property of Judge J.S. Proctor at around 6 a.m., resulting in its horrific crash. The pilot, who was reported as not of this earth, did not survive, according to Army Signal Service Officer T.J. Weems. Strange hieroglyphic markings were seen on that wreckage, which resembled a mixture of aluminum and silver, said to have weighed several tons. The body of the deceased pilot is also said to have been buried with Christian rites as a traveling pastor named William Russell Tabor at the Aurora Cemetery. The wreckage from the crash site was dumped into a nearby well located under the damaged windmill. Mr. Brawley Oates, who purchased Judge Proctor's property in 1935, cleaned out the debris from the well and later developed an extreme case of arthritis. As a result, he later sealed the well, as he felt the water was contaminated and caused this condition. There were several investigations of the Aurora event over the years. In 2005, the show UFO Files aired an episode relating to the incident where MUFON investigators uncovered 2 new eyewitnesses to the crash. Mary Evans, who was 15 at the time, told how her parents actually went to the crash site and the scene of where the alien body was discovered. Charlie Steffens, who was 10 at the time, told how he saw the mystery airship trailing smoke as it headed towards Aurora, and how his father went to the site the next day and saw the entire wreckage of the crash. The MUFON organization uncovered the alleged alien grave marker at the cemetery that appeared to show an etching of a flying saucer. They asked for permission to exhume the burial site, which was denied. They also found readings from their metal detector showing large quantities of foreign material that might be buried there. The next day, when they returned, the flying saucer marker was gone. In 2008, UFO hunters, which included Bill Burns, the publisher of UFO magazine, were able to investigate that well, along with the grandson of the previous owner of the property. The well water was tested and resulted in large amounts of aluminum. The owner gave the hunters samples of metal from the well that tested to be aluminum along with an unknown element. The Aurora, Texas incident has been said to be a fable, yet it has been included in many UFO documentaries, books, and conferences. Mystery airships had been reported all over the United States during the late 1800s and were really the predecessors to modern UFOs. At that time, the sightings were mostly at night with unidentified lights. It was the belief that those flying objects were the product of some inventor who had not ready to make knowledge of his creation public, and many times those sightings were not taken seriously. The Aurora UFO incident remains to be a cosmic fascination, especially as it happened so many years before the well-known crash at Roswell.
Thank you so much, NASA Nelly, and we'll listen for your retro rockets. And just before we take our break, here's a couple of other things that we're talking about.
My artwork was in one of those magazines.
Oh, well, can you find it?
I didn't bring it. I didn't get a chance.
Oh, it's not one of these.
No.
NASA Nelly has some artwork in one of these magazines. And just showing you. And that's probably all the time we got right now until we take our break. So don't go away. Again, have a great Easter, and but don't go away. We'll be back in just a few. Thanks so much.